What's up, guys? This video is kind of an info session about the very basics of 3D printing. What is a 3D printer? How does it work? And who is it for? Because nowadays, a 3D printer is a tool that can be used by anyone. Designers, architects, and makers of all sorts. Let me start by showing you some cool 3D designs. Follow me. We've got some stuff here for everybody. Let's start with these cool goggles. These are some steampunk goggles. They're great for cosplayers. We've also got a dragon. We've got parts of a game. And this is all fun stuff. But you can also print functional stuff, like this mount for a live action cam, or a mount for an Arduino. But today we're going to print a crystal. Now this is no normal crystal. It is equipped with some electronics to make it glow. And it's a pretty long print, so it's a great example. Okay, so before we can start 3D printing an object, let me explain to you what a 3D printer is. A 3D printer, like the Vertex Delta over here, converts a 3D design into an actual object. And what are the different parts? We've got an extruder on top, we've got a print head over here, and a print bed. Before we can start 3D printing, you'll need to choose your filament. But what is filament? Filament is the raw material that a 3D printer uses to build up its three-dimensional object. Now believe me, there are many different kinds of filament. Let me show you some. Now, there are two different things that you need to take into account when choosing your filament. The type of filament and the diameter. The first thing that you need to take into account is the diameter of the string of your filament, because different 3D printers are compatible with different types of diameter. Our Vertex Delta is compatible with a diameter of 1.75 millimeters. There are also a lot of different colors that you can choose in your filament, and for this glowing crystal we're going to choose a natural PLA. Let's start by placing the PLA on the 3D printer. There we go. Now I'm going to insert the filament into the extruder of our 3D printer. Now, how does a 3D printer work? Later on, the extruder over here will guide the filament through this tube and into the print head. The print head will heat up the filament to a temperature that's ideal for PLA to melt. Once it melts, it'll come out of the nozzle, and the nozzle will build up the three-dimensional object layer by layer onto this print bed. How does a 3D printer know what to print? First of all, you'll need a 3D design. And there are two ways in getting a 3D design. Either you draw one yourself in a 3D designing software, such as 123 Design, which is free. You can also download one of the many free 3D designs online. You've got websites like Thingiverse or My Mini Factory, where a lot of other makers and designers upload their drawings, and you can just download the STL file and get started. Actually, most of the stuff that I've shown you here was downloaded free from a website like that. Let me show you. We're on Thingiverse here, and as you can see, there's lots of cool stuff. There's mounts, there are things for drones, you've got Christmas ornaments, and we're going to look for our glowing crystal. This is a design that we drew ourselves, and what you have to do is, so you find the design that you like, and then basically, you just have to download the STL file. So once you have your 3D design, you'll have to prep it for your 3D printer, and this is called slicing. Each 3D printer has its own custom software, and slicing is actually translating the 3D object into a language that your printer can understand. So what you do is you upload your 3D design into the custom software. Once Repetier has sliced the object, it will have generated it into a G-code. This G-code will have to save onto the SD card, which we will then plug into the 3D printer. Now's the fun part. We get to choose a 3D printer. Choosing a 3D printer depends on the kind of project that you want to print. Okay, so over here we have our Vertex Original, which is a great printer, a reliable printer for larger objects. And you can add a second nozzle so you can print with two colors simultaneously. Next to the Vertex Original, we have our little Vertex Nano, which is a great fun printer to print small objects. Okay. So we've saved our G-code onto the SD card and our printer is almost ready, so let's start printing. First of all, we're going to turn on the Vertex Delta. Now, we've already inserted our filament into the extruder, but the printer will need to upload the filament first. So let's start with that. Over here we have a menu and a button so I can navigate. And I'm going to go to Control Printer and Load Filament. Over here I get to choose which filament I want to upload. And as you remember, I want to use PLA. Now, the printer is going to ask me whether the PLA filament is inserted for about 3 centimeters, which I've done. So I can just click OK. And the printer will start heating up, as you remember. The filament will be guided by the extruder into the tube and to the print head, where it will heat up to about 200 degrees. 200 degrees is the ideal temperature for PLA to melt. But ABS, for example, only melts at about 230. That's why the Vertex asked me which filament I was going to upload. So we'll have to wait a few seconds. Once the print head is at the ideal temperature, the nozzle will extrude a little bit of melted filament, so you'll know that the filament has reached the nozzle. Alright, so the filament is fully loaded and we're ready to start 3D printing. But first, make sure that your printer is on a firm table and that you're 3D printing in a well-ventilated room. Now, let's insert the SD card. Then we're going to navigate to Print from SD card. And we're going to select the right file, which is our crystal. All right. The print head will again heat up to the correct temperature at which the filament is going to melt. Then it'll do an automatic bed calibration. This means that the nozzle is going to check whether the print bed is level. And if it's not, it's going to compensate so that the first layer of our print, which is the most important layer, is level and good. Okay, the calibration is complete and the print head, or the nozzle, is going to extrude a little bit of filament and then start its first print. The first layer is excellent, so now we have to be patient, but we'll fast forward. Alright, the Delta is ready and our print is finished. Now, I also took the liberty of adding some electronics. We've got an Arduino Nano over here, then we have 2 RGB LEDs, and I also added a magnetic switch. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram for more inspiration. The links are below, and share your projects with us. See you next time.